This year, by far, has been the hardest year of business for me. And at the same time, it's been the year that has brought the most clarity and the most learning lessons. The lessons that I'm learning are also not just about entrepreneurship. They're about the core of the work that I do, which is to promote sustainable success, not just for myself, but for anyone who's part of my ecosystem. And so if you too have been feeling exhausted, feeling like you need to reassess where you're at, you're wanting to lead in a more values aligned way, you want to avoid or overcome burnout, then you're going to want to listen into this episode. I'm going to be sharing some shifts that I've been making in my life and my business. And the intention is that you can learn from me how to design and plan your second half of your year with more ease, more impact, more joy, and more care. And yes, I say this recognizing everything that is happening in our country and world today. And at the same time, you still deserve to take care of yourself. Welcome to the award-winning Grad School Femtoring Podcast, the place for first-gen BIPOCs to listen in on inclusive grad school stories and learn about personal development and productivity tips. This is Doctora Yvette Martinez-Vu, a certified coach, consultant, and author, and I will be serving as your femtor, providing you with insider knowledge to help you reach your personal and professional goals. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Grad School Femtoring Podcast. This is your host, Doctora Yvette. For those of y'all that are new to me and my work, I am a first-gen Chicana. I'm a mama of two, and technically a homeschooling mama. I rarely talk about that aspect of my life, but it is a big part of me. I'm autistic. I have chronic illnesses. I'm also a coach, a consultant, a professional speaker, and I support first-gen BIPOC students and professionals in reaching their goals sustainably. And so one of the big facets of my work is redefining productivity, not in a way that's aligned with capitalism and hustle culture and perfectionism and white supremacy culture, but really around doing work that matters most to you and centering that work around care, around sustainability, around social justice, and even around trusting yourself and the work that you feel like you were brought to this earth to do. So today I thought I would change things up and offer a mid-year reflection episode. I don't always do these. And it's funny because it's always in the episodes that I'm a bit more vulnerable that I get more listens. And as much as I hesitate sometimes to record these episodes, I just thought I would share a little bit more of the behind the scenes of what's been going on with me in my career, in my life, in my business, and let you know where I'm headed next too. So I'll talk a little bit more about my life and business reflections. I'll talk a little bit more about the podcast, some reflections on that, where I'm moving forward in the podcast. I'm also going to talk a little bit more about my services and how to work with me, just to clarify, because I know I have a lot of different things that I offer. So I want to make sure that y'all are aware of what's coming up and what's coming ahead for me in my business and my services too. And that's the episode. So starting out with life and business. This year started out rough. I started the year really, really sick. My entire family got sick. And I had all these amazing plans for the year. I had set my 2025 goals, but I had to really put them on pause because of my health. And so right away, I realized, hold up, things are not going to go as smoothly as I thought that they would. And what did that mean for me? It meant getting really serious about my capacity, about my energy. This is something I talk with my clients about all the time, just being realistic. How much can you do? How much can you work? And then aligning your work and your goals so that you're doing the most important work during the time and energy that you do have, even if it's limited. So that meant, okay, I got to really dig into my systems and simplify them. I'm a big systems person. Systems have really saved my life. It's the way that I survive. It's my coping mechanism. That's why I'm so organized. In fact, I had a meeting with one of my new clients. So I work with undergrads, grad students, and professionals. So this was one of my undergrad clients. And this client shared with me openly about being ADHD. And I was I was really impressed before I even knew anything about their identities. I was just impressed with their ability to just they seemed so put together and so organized. I sent materials over. They were the first to like sign materials and to schedule a meeting with me. And so, yeah, they told me that basically they could relate to me saying that the reason why I'm so organized, the reason why I seem so put together is because that is how I have learned to survive, is by setting up systems for myself so that I can manage the overwhelm. So, in any case, I've had to simplify my systems. I've also been updating and refining my offers. So, my grad student clients, my coaching clients, and my professional clients, postdoc, professors, y'all know if you work with me, or at least if you've been working with me in the last year, that I'm constantly updating stuff. And so they get access to a resource library when they work with me with dozens of resources. And I'm continuously updating and refining to strengthen the work that I do. And it's been really gratifying and uplifting to get recent feedback from some of my clients this year just about the impact that my work, the coaching program, my signature coaching program, has had on them, because it means that all this time that I have spent refining my offers, updating things, improving them, it's actually making a difference. I'm not just wasting my time on that. Another thing that I've been doing is really doing what I'm calling micro pivots. And what that means is that this year has been scarily slow, terrifyingly slow in business. A lot of the folks who have been my repeat clients in years past, they've had budget cuts. I've had clients whose programs were completely shut down this year. A good portion, the majority of the work that I do is with higher ed institutions. And so all of a sudden, when budget cuts hit, budget freezes, folks losing their jobs, programs completely shut down, that impacts me too. That means, okay, that was something I was counting on. That speaking engagement is no longer happening this year. And so I realized, oh, I'm going to have to figure something out. I'm going to have to make some pivots. And actually, going back to my plans for the year, at the beginning of the year, I thought I was going to lean more to the sustainable productivity side of the work that I do, because I've got these two main areas, the sustainable productivity area and the grad admissions area. I thought I was going to start to do less of the grad admissions work, but it's actually been surprising that even though a lot of the stuff that's come up has slowed down, so my speaking engagements have slowed down compared to last year, and some of my other offers have slowed down compared to last year, there's still a lot of interest in the grad admissions piece. And that makes complete sense if you think about the fact that we are in what some people may call a recession, or what feels like a recession, with inflation, with tariffs, with everything going on, all the layoffs across multiple industries. Folks are trying to figure out what's the next step. And a lot of people, they end up reverting back to wanting to get another degree or another credential. So they want to go back to graduate school. So it makes sense when I go back and reflect on it. But in the moment, I didn't recognize that. At the beginning of the year, I didn't know that was the direction I was going to head into. And even right now, I'm still making micro pivots, and I'm really spending time doing research and talking to people and reading articles to figure out what are people most in need right now and how can I tailor my services to best support them during this really hard time. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm also having to sit with the reality of my body needing more rest. And so that means slowing down. That means not trying to do too much. I have a tendency to want to overperform. I'm a recovering perfectionist, but sometimes it still creeps up on me. So I really have had to double down on even my systems to protect my energy and my boundaries too. And I'm sure, like I said, my current clients, they have noticed how I have modeled compassionate boundaries even with them. So all of this to say, I'm still figuring it out, but I've learned a lot. And I will say this, another thing that has come up for me is that I've recognized that relationships are everything. It's my relationships with folks that are keeping me afloat, that are keeping my family afloat because I provide for my family. Like I said, I'm a mama of two. I'm a homeschooling mama, and I've had to just acknowledge, hold up, Yvette. You are carrying expectations of doing full-time work on part-time hours. And I don't have to be carrying that load. I can do things differently, just like I teach and I really try to encourage that with my clients. I need to take my own advice and really rethink, like, how do I manage a business when I also need time for rest, when I also need time for my children, not just to homeschool them, but also to parent them. And those two things go hand in hand. So that's a big part of the work that I'm continuing to figure out this year is that work-life integration of making sure that I'm not doing too much on one end or the other. Now, I want to transition to talking about my podcast because my podcast is another area of the work that I do. And it's something that I do every week, and it takes a good amount of time and energy. It has been my passion project. It continues to be a passion project. And at the same time, I've had to recognize that I need to incorporate my podcast more directly into my business. Why? Because I need to monetize it to be able to make it sustainable. The fact that I spend 4 to 12 hours every week that are unpaid hours when I'm already working part-time hours, I do not have 40 hours a week to dedicate to my business. If I'm dedicating a good fraction of the work that I'm doing to my podcast, it has to compensate me back. And it has to financially compensate me because if I can't make my business work, then I can't make my podcast work. If I can't keep a roof over my head, then the podcast is not going to be available either. So in any case, with the podcast, I found it super duper interesting that over the years, one thing continues to be true, and it's that it's my solo episodes that get the most listens, which again is not surprising because I myself am a podcast listener. And my favorite podcast, I want to listen to the hosts. I'm already so used to their voice. I could see them on the street and say hi and talk to them like I know them because I feel like I know them. And it's been so funny to meet people who have been my longtime listeners. Sometimes folks book informational interviews. Sometimes they want to work with me and they book consultation calls. And they've even told me that they felt starstruck or they seem nervous because they're so used to hearing my voice. So then when they meet me, they're like, wait, I feel like I know you. So in any case, that's been really affirming to know that my solo episodes still resonate a lot with you. Another thing that has been interesting is to notice that my episodes on executive functioning skills, on time management and time blocking, and even my episodes on grad school funding have resonated a lot with y'all. I have an episode on how to create a mentorship map that was really popular, and that actually happens to be a popular topic even in my speaking engagements. So All of this to say that y'all really care about finding different ways to do your work. You really care about making sure that you can sustain yourself financially too. You want funding because you want to make sure you can make ends meet while you're in your graduate programs. And then you also care about relationships and how to improve and nurture them. And so you really are my people because these are the things I care about too. So again, it's just very affirming that the folks that are my listeners, whether you're first gen, whether you are Black or Indigenous or Latine or neurodivergent or a parent or a caregiver, y'all still resonate with my podcast. And I will also say that there are weeks I feel discouraged. There are weeks where I wonder, is anyone even listening? I have podcast metrics, I have analytics. I can see that people actually are listening, but it sometimes doesn't feel that way, even though I have the data, because most people don't reach out. Most people don't leave reviews. And doing this since 2019, so we're going into 6 years of podcasting, and I've been podcasting since 2016, I believe, with another podcast, with my Chicana Mother Work podcast. But with this one, Grad School Femtoring, since 2019. So to be doing this for so long and not regularly hear from my listeners, that can feel discouraging. Thankfully, I'm an introvert, so I'm okay with the silence. But every once in a while, like I said, I'm hoping for that review. And I recently got a review, actually. This was at the end of May. That's my most recent review. And I just want to give a shout out to this individual. They left a review. Their name is Annie Yesenia. And they put that they came across my work through mutual connections. And they say, I love how real and motivating her content is, especially as a female BIPOC grad student. Honestly, this podcast is part of my morning routine because I always leave feeling energized. I've had low moments as I navigated my PhD journey, such as working with my advisor, dissertation writing blocks, and worrying about my next career move. This podcast has it all and has made me feel supported. This type of review is what I do all of this for. When I hear that someone that actually made a difference, someone actually gained something that helped to, one of the things that I also say is that my work is at the end of the day about minimizing harm, because I experienced so much harm in my own grad school journey and my own higher ed journey. And maybe we might not see systems get dismantled in our lifetime, but one thing we can keep doing is to reduce harm. And so, again, I just want to thank that individual who left that review. If you're listening, shout out to you, Annie Yesenia, because this is why I do this. So thank you. And of course, I got to be a good entrepreneur and get over my fear of like pitching myself, and just ask for that review. So if you've benefited from my podcast, please take a moment to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you don't use Apple Podcasts, if you use Spotify, leave a comment on Spotify, and you can also leave a rating, but I'd like to read your comments. So leave a comment on Spotify or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you listen to me in any other way, you can always shoot me a DM, or you can leave me an email, for instance. So yeah, just communicate with me. I'm here, I respond back, and I love to hear from my listeners. So now that we've talked about my life and business reflections and a little bit more about the podcast, I do want to plug my services. I believe in the work that I do. And sometimes if I question the work that I do, I go back to my data, and it helps me to just reify the impact of the work that I do.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Graham, and I'm the host of Nosy AF, conversations about art, activism, and social change. Each episode, I sit down with artists, filmmakers, activists, and our community neighbors who are doing really wonderful and really rad things, talking about their work, their worlds, and what drives them to keep creating. As someone who makes work too, I'm a filmmaker and photographer, I really know how important it is to have space for these conversations, to talk about the wins, the struggles, and behind the scenes moments that really don't always get talked about. My own art explores subculture, social class, race, and gender, often with humor and always a little bit of glam. And I really try hard to bring that same energy to these conversations. So check it out. If you are an artist, a filmmaker, a curator, a community do-gooder, or you're a consumer of culture who likes to be at the galleries, who likes to be at the screenings, who likes to be at the restaurants, you know who you are, Nosy AF is for you. New episodes drop bi-weekly on Tuesdays. You can find it right here where you're listening to your podcast right now. Or hey, you can always stop by Nosy AF and get all the details there. So please, you are more than welcome to come get nosy with me, because let me tell you something. Being nosy is not a bad thing. It's an art form. I hope to see you soon.
And by now you might be wondering, what do you do? What services do you offer? If you've been curious, I primarily offer coaching, consulting, and speaking services. In the coaching space, I work with first-gen, Black, Indigenous, POCs, grad students, and professionals. I help them with setting up sustainable systems. I help them with identifying their goals and helping them to reach those goals. We talk about things like energy management, how to strengthen executive functioning skills. We talk about their values. We talk about their long-term goals. And I help them come up with a plan and a system to execute it. And when it comes to one-on-one consulting, I primarily work with individuals. Sometimes they're undergrads and their graduate programs are the ones that hire me. And sometimes it's professionals who are going back to school and they need support with applying to graduate school. So with my consulting sessions, they're highly structured. Every session has a topic, and the package is intended to help them to complete one successful graduate school application. So everything that you need to apply to graduate school, we'll go through that, and I'll provide feedback on everything live. I do everything live in our sessions. I go through things line by line with them, provide a lot of feedback, a lot of strategy, insights. I answer all of their questions. And in both of my one-on-one support offers, I will provide email and Voxer access so that folks can send me messages, voice memos. They can chat with me in between sessions. And I also provide a resource library with dozens of resources that I've created over the years to support them specifically in whatever area they're feeling stuck or less confident in. Now, when it comes to my speaking, I am a keynote speaker, and I also facilitate workshops. And my workshops, again, are in those two main areas or two broad categories of the sustainable productivity and executive functioning skills piece, and then the grad admissions piece. And so I work with a lot of graduate school preparation programs, career centers, and they primarily hire me for what I said, those key topics. I have signature topics. They're all on my website. And I also offer keynotes. So I've been a keynote for graduate school preparation conferences. I've been a keynote for a Women's Center conference. I've been a keynote for a commencement ceremony. So I do all kinds of keynotes. And then primarily for the either first gen or Black, Indigenous, POC, or even professionals who are first gen, BIPOC, neurodivergent, caregivers, etc. So folks who are historically and systemically excluded, those are the folks that I support, and those are the folks I support best. Now, in addition to my one-on-one coaching and speaking, I don't think most people realize that I have so many resources. And so I have pre-recorded workshops. I have toolkits. I have digital downloads. I have them available for you to check out in my shop if you go to gradschoolfemtoring.com/shop. But then I also have a bunch of stuff that's even not available in my shop that I license to universities. So if you're interested in grad school application resources that can help your student, be in touch with me. I actually like to pair them with my speaking engagements. So that actually works really great when folks reach out to me and they want a workshop. I will also make sure to mention my downloadable resources and also my pre-recorded workshops as an option, especially for folks who are looking for something that's more budget friendly, because I work with folks of all types of sizes and all types of budgets. So those are my main offers: is one-on-one coaching, one-on-one consulting, workshops, keynotes, trainings, and then of course, pre-recorded resources and digital downloads. So now I want to talk about what's coming up for me and also for the podcast. So for the second half of the year, my goal is to continue with these micro pivots. Like, what do folks need, and to customize my services to best support them. So instead of offering just the one thing that's listed on my website, folks are reaching out to me and I really get to hear them out, assess their needs, see if I'm the right fit for what they need. And if I am, I'm sending out custom proposals of, like, based on what you said and what your needs are and what your budget, this is what I can offer you. So lots of micro pivots, lots of reaching out to my network just to make sure that I can continue to support the folks that I've supported in the past, and even to have them introduce me to other like-minded folks who could benefit from my services. I'm also launching what I'm going to be calling a retention accelerator offer. So it's going to be a 3-part workshop series for grad school preparation programs to make sure that they're on track to reach the goals of their grant, and to also reach the goals that the greater university cares about, which is just retaining their students and making sure that their students are getting the support they need to be successful. And in terms of the podcast, you'll likely see more solo episodes. So for every guest episode, you'll see 2 to 3 solo episodes. And you're also going to see that I'm being more intentional. You could even say selective with who I invite on the podcast. I had this moment last year when I found out that one person that I interviewed actually voted for 47, actually voted for Trump. And as soon as I discovered that, I removed them from my podcast. I removed them from my social media. I want nothing to do with this person. And so that was a learning lesson for me, that moving forward, I can't just invite anyone and everyone to the show like I used to when I started out. And I need to really get a sense of who they are. That doesn't mean I'm only going to work with people I know. That doesn't mean I'm only going to invite people I know on my podcast. But it does mean that I'm implementing a vetting process just to make sure that the folks that are on the show are aligned and that they're going to be the best people for you to hear from. So yeah, a lot more solo episodes, a few more intentional guest episodes. And another thing I'm doing is I'm trying to be more thoughtful in my collaborations with others. So one thing I'm trying out is I've been part of the Women of Color podcasters community for just over a year now. I've gained a lot from that community. And so I've partnered with a few of the folks in that community to offer trailer swaps. So you might notice that even in this episode, and maybe a couple more episodes later this year, I'm going to try to do a few more trailer swaps with folks. So that way you get introduced to new shows, I get introduced to their audience too, and really we can support one another in this way. Another thing you also will see with the podcast is that I'm part of a podcasting network, and that network is currently going through some changes. And one of the big changes is that they really want to help us increase the chances of us monetizing the podcast. And so because of that, they've teamed up with a media company that helps to get you more ads and more sponsorships. What that means for you is that you might see more ads. So you might notice dynamic ads. Those are ads that I don't have a say over what they are, but I do have a say over the categories that are allowed to be on my podcast. So there are going to be some ads that way. You'll see some ads of my services, of course, because That's more important than any dynamic ad, is making sure that I find the right people to work with me. And then you'll also see potentially some sponsored ads. And if so, I do get to decide who I say yes and no to. And I'm going to say yes to only the folks who offer either services or products that are aligned or that I believe in. And similarly, I've even added this year an affiliate link to promote software that I use. So for instance, I have a Descript affiliate link that I usually share because I'm absolutely obsessed with the software. I use that almost every single day. It's the reason why I'm even able to simplify my systems and process for recording the podcast so that I can be consistent every week. So I use it not just for my podcast, I use it in a bunch of different ways. It's saved me so much time and energy, so that's why I promote it. So in any case, you'll be noticing more of that. And that gets me to wrapping things up. If you've made it this far, I just want to thank you for listening. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts on my mid-year reflection. I want to hear what's been going on with you. Oh my gosh, this year, every time I feel like we've reached the hardest part, things just keep getting worse and worse. So I am just counting on my community. I'm counting on continuing to support one another. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear what's working in the podcast. I want to hear what you've learned from the podcast. I want to hear what you look forward to hearing about in the future on the podcast. Yeah, and if you're someone like me who's been feeling like you're tired and you need to reassess and change things up, I hope that this episode provides you with the insight and the motivation to do that, because we all deserve to find ways to do the work that we do in sustainable ways, in ways that are aligned with what our body, mind, and spirit need right now. So please, 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 as always, keep taking care of yourself and share the episode with someone who might benefit from it. Let me know what your thoughts are. And that's it for today. As always, I will talk to you all next time. Thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, here are 3 ways you can support the show. The first is to make sure you're subscribed and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The second way is to get your copy of my free resource kit linked in my show notes. This kit includes tools, worksheets, and podcast playlists on all things grad school, productivity, and personal development. The third way to support my show is to follow me on social media. You can find me on Instagram with the handle @Grad School Femtoring and on LinkedIn by searching my name. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.